Our parsha describes one of the greatest days in Jewish history. Vayhi bayom Shemini. It was on the 8th day that the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was inaugurated. This was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It was the first time that the Kohanim served in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. It was the first time that there was Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. It was a splendid day that all of the nation was gathered around the tabernacle, watching the sacrifices and the entire service. And then tragedy struck. The two elder sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, came into the sanctuary. They brought a sacrifice that they were not commanded to bring, and they died. Their cousins had to go into the sanctuary and take out their bodies. And this was a terrible blow, not just, of course, to the parents, to Aaron and Elisheva, but to the entire nation, that on this day of celebration, that these righteous and holy people should be struck down. And our sages debate, what sin exactly was it for which they were killed? Some say that they came in drunk. Some of them say the simple explanation was that they brought a sacrifice that they weren't told to do. And one doesn't enter into the sanctuary unless one is told to do so exactly. And yet others say that they were somewhat arrogant young people. As great as they were, they had a certain degree of arrogance. Others say because they never made an attempt to get married. But if we put it all together, we see that as great as they were as human beings, and they had been selected by God himself to be the Kohanim, they were still young. And sometimes with youth comes inexperience and folly. And although we live in a world today where we look up to young people and we sort of put older people on the side, one has to realize that older people have an experience that young people just cannot get. And that experience is bought, if you like, with time. The fact that they've just been around longer and they've seen more. And the Talmud gives us a most incredible example of this. And it speaks about Rechavam. Rechavam was the son of Solomon, King Solomon, who took over from him. King Solomon had an incredible reign. It was a time of peace and prosperity for the Jewish people. Jerusalem was the capital. The temple was built over many, many years. There was power and influence and wealth and Torah learning, and foreigners were flocking to the country. But then Shlomo HaMelech passed away, and his son Rechavam was made the king. And the people from the northern provinces of Israel came to him. They sent a delegation. They said, your father put a very heavy taxation on us. We had to pay a lot of money. We had to send people to help build the temple. And we would ask you, please, to relax that taxation, make it a little bit easy for us. Rechavam was a young man. He didn't know exactly what to do, how he should answer these people. So he consulted with some elderly advisors. And the elderly advisors said as follows: you're a young king. You're not yet tested. Why don't you reach out to them? This is your opportunity to get them in your hand and to show that you are a compassionate person. Tell them that you've cancelled the taxation altogether. And he thought, well, this is a good idea. But then his young advisors spoke to him and they said, are you crazy? You're a young king. You're not yet proven. And now the first act you're going to do, you're going to be so lenient with them and so light with them. Show them a firm hand. Not only must you not cancel the taxation, increase the taxation. And he listened to those young advisors, and that's exactly what he did. And it was tragic. The results were completely tragic because those 10 tribes in the northern provinces broke away. And they said, we don't want to have a king like that. And they appointed their own king, Yeravam. And so the two kingdoms were split for hundreds and hundreds of years until the northern kingdom was exiled by the Syrians, and then later the southern kingdom was exiled by the Babylonians. All because Rechavam listened to the advice of the young over the old. And therefore the Talmud tells us, be very, very careful when it comes to taking advice. Because sometimes when old people tell you to destroy, they will actually bring about building. And sometimes when young people tell you to build, it'll actually bring about destruction. Those old people said, you know what? Remove the tax, as it were, destroy, and it'll build you up. The young people said, no, add the tax, which means build, but it actually led to destruction. So as much as we value youth, we also have to value the experience that comes with old age and with wisdom. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.